ever really wrestled with a question that just shakes the very foundations of faith? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful exchange between a skeptic and a religious scholar that does exactly that. It tackles two of the biggest, toughest paradoxes about God's plan and, our place in it.
And this is the question that kicks the whole thing off. It comes from an American entrepreneur, and it's just a raw, challenging, and super personal question about divine logic, free will, and why there's suffering. So here's our roadmap for this. We're going to start by looking at what the questioner calls his coin with two sides. First, we'll tackle the foreknowledge paradox. Then we'll flip that coin over and get into the paradox of praise and see how it gets reframed as a tool for us, all leading back to one central idea, the final human choice. Right, so our question comes from an American entrepreneur, and he doesn't see his struggle with faith as a bunch of separate problems. No, for him, it's like a single coin with two really different but totally connected sides. Okay, let's dig into the first side of that coin. This is a classic, right? A huge theological dilemma that people have been debating for centuries, the paradox of divine foreknowledge. And here's what it all boils down to. If God knows everything, and he knew from the very beginning that some people would end up in hell, then why create them in the first place? From a human point of view, as the questioner says, that just feels, sadistic. Now, the scholar's response is pretty bold. It doesn't dodge the question at all. Instead, it completely reframes the whole purpose of humanity, and it puts one key concept right at the center of it all, the test of free will. So the argument starts by drawing a really important line in the sand. God apparently already created beings without free will. That's the angels. They just obey automatically. But humans, in this view, are actually a better creation. And why? Precisely because we have a choice. Our ability to obey, even though we have the total freedom to disobey, is what gives our actions real meaning. And to make this really clear, the scholar uses this great analogy. Imagine a teacher. She knows for a fact that one of her students is going to fail an exam. But for justice to actually be served, the student has to be given the chance to take the test and fail on their own terms. Just failing them beforehand without the test, that wouldn't be fair. And in this view, our life is that test. And this is where the argument takes a really wild turn. According to the scholar, who's citing the Quran, this incredibly difficult test, it wasn't just forced on us. We actually chose it. Apparently, we were offered a path with guaranteed safety, but we opted for the riskier journey of free will because we were hoping to achieve something much, much greater. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, because it's the immediate, logical question, right? I don't remember making that choice. Do you? If we all signed up for this massive cosmic test, why on earth does no one remember doing it? And the answer to that is the memory had to be erased. Think about it. If you knew for a fact that you had personally opted in for this test, it would change every single thing you do. It'd be like taking a final exam, but you've got the answer key sitting right there on your desk. So the forgetting isn't a bug, it's a feature. It's what makes the test authentic. Okay, so let's flip the coin. Now we're moving on to the second big paradox the questioner brought up, and this one is all about the whole nature of worship and praise. And this question is just as sharp as the first one. It's like, okay, if creating the entire universe was completely effortless for God, literally just saying be, and it was, then why do the scriptures constantly tell us we have to be amazed by it? Why would it being that powerful need or even want our praise for something that was, to him, a total piece of cake? But again, the scholar's answer just flips the whole premise on its head. The argument is that praise isn't for God's benefit at all. It's actually a mechanism, a tool that's designed to help humanity. So the idea here is that saying God is great doesn't actually make God any greater than he already is. He's already there. Instead, the act of praise, of worship, serves this really powerful psychological purpose for us. It's a tool to basically condition our own minds. Just think about it in everyday human terms. We're way more likely to listen to advice from people we think are super powerful or famous or incredibly wise. So the argument is that by constantly acknowledging the Creator's power through praise, we become psychologically way more open to the guidance that's being offered. Guidance that, in the end, is meant for our own good. Okay, here's a super simple analogy to make this click. Imagine a total stranger just walks up to you on the street and hands you $100. You're probably going to be focused on the money, right? Like, wow, what a lucky break.
But now, imagine Bill Gates walks up and hands you that exact same $100 bill. Suddenly, the money is almost irrelevant. Your mind would just start racing. Why me? What does this mean? Is he trying to tell me something? The identity of the giver completely changes the meaning of the gift. And the argument here is that praising God is all about learning to focus on the giver, not just on the gifts.
So, when we bring both sides of the coin together, the solutions offered for both of these really complex paradoxes all seem to hinge on one single incredibly powerful idea: the profound implications of human choice. So, let's just quickly recap the core arguments we walked through. Free will is what makes humanity special, even better than angels. The whole test of life is justified because supposedly we chose it ourselves, even though we can't remember. Praise isn't about God's ego, it's a psychological tool for our benefit. And finally, for divine justice to work, the test has to be carried out, even if God already knows how it's going to end. And all of that leaves us with one last really fascinating question to just chew on. This entire framework for justice and free will, it hangs on a primordial choice that none of us remember making. So that leaves us to ask, does a forgotten choice still carry the same moral weight? Now that's something to think about.